Ladies and gentlemen, let's Gamer.com video. Let's have an update with the grey market key situation, shall we? Which started out with customers on Ubisoft's forums, as well as other internet forums, for example, NeoGAF and so on, reporting that certain keys on Uplay were, well, disappearing. Their games were literally just disappearing out of their account. And of course people were scratching their head, and then the common thread would appear to be that they'd all bought their games through grey market websites, in other words, Kinguin, which of course would naturally lead to websites such as G2A. And so, what happened? Well, it's a bit of a mess, and to be honest with you, we're still getting the lowdown on this, and I've actually spoken to a couple of developers about this, and we'll go into what they've said in a moment. But first of all, let's deal with G2A, because they have issued statements along with Kinguin, and we'll say what Ubisoft have been telling customers as well. So, to begin with, Kinguin has said that the deactivated games keys were acquired and sold by, and I quote, an unidentified individual from Russia. So this individual had tons of cheap keys, and then many of their sellers, many of Kinguin's sellers, simply didn't buy the keys. They said, this looks a bit too cheap, we're a bit wary of this. However, 35 of them did purchase these keys, and then of course subsequently those keys went on to customers, right? But it would appear that those keys were bought via possibly a stolen credit card or cards from Origin without any real suspicion during the actual original purchase process. So this is from official information released by Ubisoft and Origin, and they are once again asserting that it was fraudulent credit cards that were used to acquire these original keys through the Origin platform. So, okay, so now we know that the keys are in effect most likely bought with stolen credit card information. What's going to happen? Well, as I mentioned pretty much at the opening of this video, there's been a hell of a lot of customers that this has affected, and indeed there's been 4,600 customer tickets that Kinguin themselves have dealt with. This has been submitted in the last 3 days, last 72 hours, and it's affecting 35 out of the 3,400 merchants, so in other words less than 1%. So it's quite a small amount, but obviously it's also a lot of customers. So the firm currently estimates that around 110,000 Great British pounds will be refunded to customers, which is once again a lot of money when you consider it. So what possible effects is that going to have as you as a customer? At the moment there's a bit of miscommunication. It's not 100% clear whether you're going to get a full refund if you don't opt for Kinguin's guard technology. In other words, if the key doesn't work, they'll give you a full refund, but it looks like it's going through anyway, although the reports are a bit dicey. Some people are saying that they have got a refund and others are saying they've not, so I'm not quite sure what's going on, but it looks like it's going through anyway. Because there's more reports that they are getting refunds than there's not. Also, it's clear that people are going to have to be a bit more careful. Now the problem is, if a key is so cheap, it looks a bit suspicious. In other words, let's say you've got, I'm just using a pure example here, let's say you've got a new game like Assassin's Creed Unity's literally just come out today. Obviously it's not, but let's just assume it did. You've got this game that's just come out, and someone's selling it for like £8 or $10 or something like that. There's probably a reason behind it. So what happens, as far as I can understand, in relation to stolen credit card information, someone, let's just say the name Bob, has their credit card information stolen, and then Bob's credit card is used to purchase a game. That game obviously has a CD key associated with it. That CD key is then sold to a partner, and then Bob eventually realizes, oh, hang on, what the hell, I haven't bought this stuff, you know, why the hell are Origin or whomever charging me like $30 here, $50 there, or whatever your currency happens to be? What the hell? And then of course they pretty much claim it back, and obviously Ubisoft or whichever company is out of pocket. Obviously that's a bad thing, because effectively it is stolen property. So it's kind of an issue where not just we as customers need to be quite careful, but Ubisoft and all of these large companies, you know, they're going to start really cracking down on this. Now, I did email Tyler Glaiel. Now, Tyler did give some quotes back on Twitter. You might recall he actually said, I'd rather people pirate my games than actually use these CD key sites. Those are his words, not mine. In fact, he used pirate my shit, but I decided to be a bit more, a little bit more friendly. But anyway, I decided to ask him follow-up just to kind of clarify on a couple of points. And I asked him, well, do you have any idea what percentage of CD keys are stolen versus are bought from a cheaper region, for example, Russia? Because there is a lot of debate on this, and he said it's very hard to actually steal keys. Most of the time it's bought from cheaper regions or people taking advantage of Hunt Bundle, and then basically selling hundreds of keys for basically nothing. I asked, you know, are they stolen using other methods such as hacking? He said keys are often not stolen. At worst, someone is selling a fake key that simply doesn't work. Is it possible to estimate the number of sales that are lost? And he says it's impossible. But he doesn't think it's significant in his mind anyway. For example, in this particular scenario, would you say that clamping down the grey market is going to become common from now on? It went unregulated and it wasn't really tackled for ages. And he says, well, most of the sellers, resellers operate outside of the US, so it's actually really hard to clamp down on them, so it's probably not worth the effort. All you can do is let people know that they're actually not really legit. So, what's the answer? Well, in this particular case, we as customers just need to be a bit more careful. As I said, if something looks a bit too good to be true, it probably is, especially on the internet. And I've heard stories which isn't related necessarily to the PC or Uplay, but I've actually heard stories, and I did report this originally in another video, but I have reported, I have seen on various forums that, let's say you are an Xbox 360 owner, it could be a PSN, but whatever, let's just use Xbox for a second, and you buy a game digitally. You could buy cheap digital games for the Xbox 360 as well, using certain websites, and one chap actually checked his transaction history, and he saw that the game, which was a new game, was actually bought for, I don't remember the exact number, but it was basically the full retail price for the title via the digital platform. So let's just assume, for sake of argument, it was like $45 US, and that title was then sold to him for, I don't know, whatever it was, like $25 US or $20 US. So if you do the math on that, I don't think any business person is going to say, well, this is great business. I'm making a loss of $20 per title that I'm selling. It's obviously there's something fishy going on there. And he decided to kind of do a bit more investigation, check out his account history, and lo and behold, it actually belonged to the person who had bought the game, which of course was now on his account, was actually some lady in Canada. So it's very unlikely, of course, that she was part of the business. So it's most likely that her credit card was used fraudulently. So it is a bit of a grey market, and obviously Uplay, Steam, Origin, none of these kind of, well, no shop really wants to be associated with that. Let's just be totally honest. So all we can do is be a little diligent. I'm not saying don't buy the keys. I'm not saying don't use certain websites. I'm just saying just be really careful if that's your way forward. And I would personally advocate not doing it. Look for sales on the websites like Steam, Amazon do them. I know I keep using them as an example, but it's just that they're probably one of the only authorized resellers that I can think of. Green Man Gaming, they do like 25% off codes. I'm not getting, I'm not affiliated with any of these websites. I'm just simply saying Green Man Gaming do like 25% off codes. You can Google them. Amazon do tons of discounts as well. Don't just settle with the digital copies with Amazon. Do look for boxed copies, because let's face it, sometimes boxed copies are actually cheaper. And in fact, during the Steam sale, Christmas, some boxed games, I don't know the reason for this, so don't even ask me, but you had boxed games which were like £17. I think it was Far Cry 4, don't quote me on that, but I believe it was either Far Cry 4 or Assassin's Creed, It was literally £17, and that was cheaper than what Origin were doing it for. It was cheaper than what Uplay were doing it for, and it was actually cheaper than Amazon were doing it for the digital, because I think the digital was like £30 odd. It's just crazy. So definitely do a little bit of shopping around if you want the cheapest prices possible. And of course the good news is you don't have to worry about your card, you don't have to worry about your account, you don't have to worry if the game is going to disappear. So I personally go with that method, but obviously it's down to you at the end of the day. Just be a little careful. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video, or at least found it somewhat informative. If you are someone who's been affected by this, do let us know on facebook.com/redgamingtech. Give us a message and let us know what your particular outcome has been. But with that said, take care. Bye for now.